So I've had this Papio SS for just over a month now, and in today's video we're going to talk about all the little ins and outs that I've noticed about this motorcycle after treating it as my daily bike for the last month. If you guys are in the market for one of these, stick around, because at the end of this video I'll tell you if you should grab this thing or not. Let's get into it. What's going on, guys? Chaseontwowheels here for another 1 month review. Now, if you guys are new here, my 1 month reviews are a little different from my regular first ride videos. A lot of you guys are familiar with my first ride videos. In the first ride video, I want to give you guys that first impression. In my 1 month reviews, I basically want to give you the opposite. I want to tell you guys all the little nitty-gritty things that I've noticed about this bike as I've been riding with it for the last little while. In this case, it's just over a month. So let's check out this little mini moto and talk about the pros and cons that I've noticed with it and find out if it's something you guys should buy or not. That being said, if you are looking for a more first impressions techie review, I would recommend the first ride. I'll put a link for it in the description if you guys want to check that video out. It's always a good video to watch first before you watch this one. Now, guys, before I jump on this bike, one of the things that I have to talk about before we even get started, and it's probably the thing that you guys notice the most, and that is the looks. It's got this very cool retro vibe. I love the red and white top half and then just dark underneath, even though we have like that belly fairing. I think the looks is what is making this bike so popular. You guys were flooding the first ride video talking about how much you like this thing. So I think a lot of us are really digging the looks of this motorcycle. So to me personally, that's probably the main thing for this motorcycle is this mini moto, I should say, is the looks. And part of the looks, I have to call attention to the tail. We have an undertail exhaust on this mini moto. I personally, that is my favorite type of exhaust. We don't get to see it in hardly any motorcycles these days, and we don't get to see it in any mini motos, and to see it on this bike, it just adds so much character, and I absolutely freaking love it. All right, let's get on this thing and ride around and tell you more about what I like about it and what I don't. For you guys that missed the first ride, it sounds like this. Pretty standard for a mini moto, actually. Alrighty, little Papio SS. Let's head out of here. So guys, the first thing we gotta talk about with this bike is the vibe, because it is entirely different. I know this thing looks like a bike, it rides like a bike, it has all the gearing and the acceleration of a bike, but a full-size motorcycle and a mini moto do feel quite different. It is an entirely different experience that you're going to get on this, and I don't know if this is a pro or a con. It's kind of like whatever you're looking for. I just don't categorize or look for the same things in a mini moto as I do a full-on motorcycle. It's its own thing. It's its own fun little situation. You would not go ride with your buddies with full-blown bikes with a mini moto. I mean, you could. It would be hilarious. But I don't think the majority of the people looking into this bike are going to do that. Personally, I love this little thing. I think it's awesome. I just think it's really fun. It's very unique, and I love that. I love the vibe. I love when you get a group of mini moto people together, and then you can all ride around. That's a true key if you have a mini bike. Find some friends that also have one or something similar, you know what I mean? So one of the things you guys got to keep in mind with these little bikes is they are tiny. They have a very short wheelbase, and the wheels are very tiny. And what that equates to is a very flicky experience. It takes just a whiff. It takes just a whiff to get the bike leaned in the opposite direction. So that's something cool, because you have the maneuverability of just doing anything. But I literally passed that guy like 2 minutes ago. He's gonna be like, is the guy on the little bike following me? But yeah, the agility that these little bikes have is insane. In the city, it's fantastic. And in little roads like this, it does not take a lot of your weight to just throw this thing back. It's a very effortless riding experience that I think you'll enjoy. I like stability. It adds to the playful nature for me of this bike, that little agility that it has. I think it's a good thing. Obviously, you're probably not going to be buying this to go racing and stuff like that, so, you know, it is what it is. Next up, one of the highlight features for me for this bike is the mirrors. Now, I know that's kind of a ridiculous statement. Mirrors aren't really that big of a deal, but when mirrors are this well placed on a bike, and with the combination of them working so well, that turns it into a bigger deal. So mirrors that work well are great, right? You can see around you, you can get a good presence of the cars happening and what's going on behind you. But generally, you know, keep this in mind, generally, the mirrors that work the best look the worst. They are ridiculous the majority of the time. This is one of the few motorcycles where the mirrors look so good and they work fantastically. They don't look out of place and they fit the entire design of the bike. It's just, you don't see that very often. So when I do see it, I want to make sure that I call it out because, you know, the more we appreciate things, the more we buy motorcycles that have the characteristics that we're looking for, the more they will be put into other bikes. So hint, hint, nudge, nudge, all you other motorcycle manufacturers, we care. We care how our bikes look. Please make them make sense to us. That's all we're asking for. Alrighty, so I asked you guys over on our Discord. We have a motorcycle Discord, by the way. You should check it out if you want to hang out with some motorcycle people. But I asked you guys over there, what are some of the things you guys are looking for in a mini moto? And somebody was asking about fuel consumption. Now, I haven't done like a hardcore fuel consumption test, but I ride a few miles a week on this little thing, and I get gas once a week. Now, it feels like to me, I want a little more mileage out of a tank, but another thing that I've realized is the tank is super tiny, so if you're riding consistently, like I said, a couple hundred, a few hundred miles a week, expect to be getting gas at least once. Now keep that in mind, that's me riding this. I am currently around 235 pounds and 5'10", so the bike is having to lug around quite a bit of weight. So if you're a lighter rider, you might be able to get away with a few more miles than that. Your weight as the rider is going to be a big deal the smaller the bike is. And in a situation like this is about as small as bikes get. Okay, so something else I wanted to touch on during this pro section is just how well I feel this bike would be for somebody to learn on. When I was teaching my girlfriend at the time, wife now, to ride motorcycles, I used my Yamaha WR250X. And I feel like that was a really good bike to learn, for her to learn like the clutch and how to control everything. But the problem with that bike was it was very tall. And, you know, having a tall motorcycle can really it can hit your confidence because if something happens, you're going to tip over a ways. But I find that this bike could be like one of the ultimate learn to ride bikes on, because you've got a 6-speed transmission, so you have to learn everything. You've got a clutch, you got a front brake, you got rear brake. Everything is the same on this bike as it is on a full-size bike. You got to learn that, you know, friction zone with the clutch, and it is a shorter bike. So you guys might have seen back there at that red light, my knees are bent when I'm standing up on this bike. So it's also very light. It just makes a very comfortable environment to learn to ride on. I kind of love the idea of a mini moto being bought by somebody that already rides and they want this fun little bike to ride around town. And then when they have a friend or a girlfriend or a wife or a kid who's interested in motorcycles, they use this to kind of teach them in a safe way how to learn and all the details of how to ride. And then, you know, they do that in a safe environment, which is going to make them learn faster. And then they use that on a full-size bike when they start riding. I kind of love this bike for that, honestly. Final thing I want to touch on with this bike that I've been really impressed with is it's a 125. It's a smaller bike. Nobody's going to be setting land speed records on this thing. And because of that, if you're an experienced rider, you are probably going to be revving the absolute piss out of this motorcycle. And I've been very impressed with how smooth this engine is. As much as you're revving it out and just pushing it for as fast as it'll go, it's actually really smooth and doesn't vibrate a lot. A lot of motorcycles, when you push the RPMs outside of their like ideal range, you get a lot of vibration. And this motorcycle, you can push all the way to its rev limiter, and it's just a smooth little bike, not a lot of shaking or anything. That kind of surprised me. I didn't expect it to be like that, but I've been very happy with finding that out. Super surprised, super happy about it though. Like, look at that, we're just pegging it. And that's the only way I ride this bike. I just full pin on the on the throttle. It's so fun. I love it so much. Let's talk about some slightly negative things that I've noticed on this bike, or at least to me. I guess at the end of the day, everything in this video is to me, right?
You're goddamn right.
Okay, the first thing is the body position. Now, I don't think the body position is bad, but one of the things I'm not a huge fan of is if I'm sitting on this bike like normal, right, like this, and I'm looking forward, I cannot see anything going on down here. Now, you know, I mean, you guys can probably see from that camera, my back is kind of leaned forward a little bit, and I'm looking straight. I would like to have the controls at least slightly visible. They're just so much lower than me. I find myself, if I need to check my speed, which, let's be honest, it's a mini moto, I don't have to do that very often. But if I need to check anything, I have to look so far down to see any of the information. Not the hugest of fans with that. And that goes for my mirrors as well, that I love. But to check them, I have to look at my head position. I gotta look all the way down there to see that. And that might be a little ridiculous. I might be like, you know, just trying to find stuff, but I just wish I could see these a little more. I wish they were a little more in front. That would be neat. Okay, so next thing is something I found the hard way, and it's not something you want to find out, but I do feel like the ground clearance on this bike leaves a little to be desired. Now, I told you guys earlier in the video, this bike is super flicky, short wheelbase, tiny wheels. You can flick this thing all around. Now, the other day, I was riding this thing somewhere, and I was taking a left turn, and with it being such a small motorcycle, if you've never ridden one, you probably don't know, but you end up shifting these things a lot. You guys might have noticed throughout this video. It makes for a very engaging riding experience, but regardless, you find yourself shifting the motorcycle a lot. Well, the other day, I was riding the bike, and I was taking a left turn, and while taking that left turn, I just found myself in a position where I needed to shift, so I did, and as shifting and turning, I ended up scraping my foot along the ground. Now, I wasn't taking like a hardcore, like leaning in turn. It was just kind of casual. So it could have been one of those situations of bad place, bad time, like the perfect storm for that to happen. But I kind of wish I had a little more ground clearance to avoid situations like that. It's never a good feeling when you scrape your shoe on the ground. Now, to be fair, I'm an experienced rider. That didn't freak me out. It's happened many times on many different bikes, so it wasn't like an oh my gosh, I almost wrecked situation, but after I noticed it, I kind of like tried to test it out a little bit. I know that's a terrible idea, but regardless, I did it. And I could make it happen far too easy. So I don't know if I want more ground clearance or what, but something. I want something figured out in that range. Now, while we're talking about ergonomics, kind of, one of the things that I don't think is an overall negative for me, but I do think that this bike would not be great for anybody that's too much taller than me. Now again, I'm 5'10", I've got a 32-inch inseam. I feel like I fit on this bike really well. I feel like I'm probably too heavy for this bike, but height-wise, I feel like I fit great. But it's slightly cramped. But I'm okay with that. I feel fine like that. But I'm trying to envision if I was a little bit taller and my legs were a little more squinched up, I don't know if I could realistically ride this thing comfortably. So if you're in the 6'1", 6'2" range, I don't know if I would go with this mini moto. I would be shocked if one of you guys are going on a mini moto, but if you're looking for a mini moto, I would look something in the more upright category, like the other Papio that CFMOTO puts out, or the Grom. Something else that's more upright I think would be a little more comfortable for you. So I would kind of steer you in that direction if you're a little bit taller. All right, now, final thing I really want to touch on as far as this category goes is the, I don't really know how to describe this, but it's the excitement level of this bike. I kind of touched on it earlier, talking about this bike has a very specific characteristic to its riding. It's very unique to a mini moto, but I think there could be an issue if one of you guys purchased one of these expecting to get all the excitement that you're used to out of a, is there a motorcycle being loaded? Oh, there is. What's that? Well, that's awesome. It's like an old Honda. If you guys got one of these motorcycles, this one or any of the mini motos really, and expected it to get the same experience out of riding as you would a full-on motorcycle, I think you are setting yourself up to be a little let down. These bikes are not serious, they are fun, and they are just cute little bikes. We're going to go ahead and go in front of that bus because we can. But one of the things that experience doesn't have is the excitement factor. A lot of the time you're going to spend on this bike, you are not going to feel excited. You are going to trade it out for just pure fun and enjoyment. It's not going to be that exciting and thrilling experience. And I think a lot of you guys need to come into this with that expectation. And if you come in with that expectation, you understand that, I think you'll set yourself up to enjoy this bike a lot more than you would if you came into it like, I want to get excited about this thing. I want it to like throw me back. This is not the bike for that. But it gives you a lot of other things that you wouldn't get on a bigger motorcycle. Like all the stuff we've been talking about, obviously. Alrighty, so going back to the Discord stuff that I was asked, one of the things that you guys kept asking is, how does it compare to a Grom? Which totally makes sense. The Grom is the heavy hitter in this situation, in these mini bikes. And should you go with this over the Grom? Now, as far as things that the Grom does better than this bike, or any of the mini motos, I feel like the fit and finish on the Papio SS is about 95% of what the Grom is, which is saying a lot because the Grom is, made by Honda. Fit and finish is fantastic. The fit and finish on this bike is great, but there is this tiniest little thread more with the Grom. But the good thing about that is that it makes the discussion of what mini moto to go with a very subjective conversation. To me, I think the Grom has a slightly comfier seat, and I think it obviously the body position is a little different. But realistically, I think what you need to ask yourself is, what kind of seating position do you want? And is that 5% better fit and finish worth the extra price of going with the Grom? And at the end of the day, do you like the looks of the motorcycle? If you really like the looks of this bike, then you should absolutely go with this. You will be so much happier walking out into your garage every day and seeing this little thing as compared to seeing a Grom, and they're gonna ride basically the same. Now, for me personally, I really like being upright, and this bike is slightly leaned over too much for me, so I don't see myself upgrading my current Papio. I have the last gen CFMOTO Papio, the one with the kind of like angular KTM looking headlight. I've got that one, and I'm very happy with it. I like the handlebars, and I like the ability to wheelie better. I can't wheelie this one, but I can wheelie my Papio, so I kind of like it for that. It adds to the little hooligan vibe of the bike, and that's something that I really value, so I'm going to stick with my upright Papio. They do have a different Papio than this guy. It almost looks like a tiny supermoto, so that could be also something that works out for you guys that, could be a vibe to go with. But at the end of the day, it's kind of whatever you're looking at. Do you like the looks of the Grom? Do you like the looks of one of the Papios? Cool, go with that. I don't think anybody's going to be making a mini bike decision based on performance. And at the end of the day, if you're looking for a little bike that will get you a ton of looks, I get so many looks on this bike, dude. I get so many. I'll be at a red light, somebody pulls up and they'll have their window down, and I'll just like instinctively look at them, and they'll be looking at me like, you know, shaking their head up and down like, yeah, dude, that's awesome. And it is. This bike looks fantastic. It looks unique. And that's kind of what a lot of people are looking for, is a unique looking motorcycle with a fun experience. And that is what I've gotten out of the Papio SS here. And guys, I think that's all I've got to say about this bike. It's been a freaking hoot while I've had it. I really appreciate CFMOTO loaning it to us for a little while. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it helps you out with, you know, making your purchase decisions on your next motorcycle, hopefully. And if you guys have any questions about it, let me know in the comments down below. I'll do my best to get back with you and help you out trying to make the best motorcycle decision you can. If you're at this point in the video, you're in the outro crew, put OC in your comment. That means you got to the end of the video. So make sure to like it. And you guys let me know, what are you going with for a mini moto? Are you doing the Papio SS? Are you doing their like little Supermoto Papio? Or are you going to go something like a Grom or a Honda Monkey? Where are you going if you were to get a mini moto? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm Chaseontwowheels. I'll see you guys on the next one. Later. I didn't talk about it in the video, but one of the huge benefits of these bikes is the exploratory factor. The ability to just go around and explore. Papio SS, you have been an absolute hoot. I love you for a long time, but I cannot cheat on my lovely Papio, aka Papio.